Hi, besties. Welcome back to this week's podcast. I'm sad because this season is coming to an end next week. So after next week's episode, and I'm genuinely heartbroken over it because I actually just want to keep going and going and going. But that's okay. We're not going to do that because we have plans. We have plans and we're following the plans, not our emotions. But we do have something big for you guys coming. Two things, actually. Number one, let me say this first, that season 3 of the podcast in the next 12 episodes that are also going to operate like this season where it feels like its own course within itself, that's going to be dropping in May. So I'm really, really excited about that. You guys don't have to wait that long. It's just a little break basically through April. And I'm not going to deep dive on fully what it is yet, but I will say this. If season 1 was about getting your ass into gear and doing more in 12 weeks than most do in 12 months, season 2 is way more like expansive energy. Rather than being in pursuit of something, being the person who can actually hold it, have it, keep it. So I'm really excited about that. But what we're also going to be doing, and you can look out for this in the next couple weeks, is I'm going to be dropping a new free resource and a new low ticket offer. And that specifically, I will share about that. So I'm going to talk about a little bit today in today's episode, but I just came back from an event speaking to 300 plus creators. And what I've just really noticed is that so many people in my audience fall into a category of they either are entrepreneurs, would love to be entrepreneurs, or they want to have brands, run a business online, have just more of like be a content creator, or pretty much just be self-made. They want to make a life of more freedom, financial freedom for themselves in some form. And so most people fall in that category. So I figured after speaking at the event about my story of how I made multiple six figures my first year with under 1,200 followers, that I would actually just make a low ticket product at the most $47, I'm going to guess. I'm saying this here, and so it will be that or less. I guess now I have to commit to it now that I said it. But I'm going to be making a product. It's literally a whole course. It's a whole course, multiple videos on how did I literally do that? How did I make $200,000 my first year in business with content alone with under 1,200 followers. And I'm just really excited to bring that to you guys so that you can monetize, so that you can build the brand, so that you can be self-made, so that you can really go after it. And I'm just so excited for that. So look out for that in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. It will drop in April. Let me say this. So you'll have that in April to kind of hold you over until we get back to the potty in May with the next season, which I'm so excited about that. And what I'll say is if you want to be the first in the know about this, please either make sure you're following me on Instagram or come join my email list. I will put the link to my website below where you can actually join the email list because I will put a lot of those announcements there and I don't want you guys to miss it. So let's dive into today's episode where I really want to talk about what to do when you want to quit, what to do when it feels like things aren't working. Because so often when you are pursuing big things, it is not going to feel like the work that you are doing is working. And we need to talk about how you can handle that differently so that you can get very different, bigger results in life. So let's talk about really what sparked this whole episode specifically. So I just got back from an event, 300 plus creators, and it was just such good energy. So many people who want to build brands, they want to build businesses. And I really specifically got asked to come and speak to those creators because of my own journey being able to monetize and make 7 figures off of content and organic content alone. And so much of what they asked me about specifically, and I knew going into that event that they wanted to talk to me about, was not only the mindset and what it really took to build a 7-figure business online, but also how did I do it very specifically, where I monetized, number 1, quickly, and 2, I monetized so well with a small audience. And really what I spoke so much about was a bit of how I thought about business, brand, content, monetization myself from the very beginning that I still hold true to my beliefs today that allowed me to make my first sale with, I think, around under 500, I'll say this, under 500 followers. And that led me to make my first $800,000 with under 3,000 followers. And so many people after I was on stage and spoke came up to me after and were just so like, I'm just gonna I don't know, I'm trying to be humble about it, but it also really it shook me to my core how many people were lining up to take my picture, just waiting to talk to me. Like, it really hit home, and I've never felt so like this work is important. I get DMs from you guys all the time, and they do mean the world, but it just hits different when someone is like, "Can I come hug you and thank you?" Because so many people told me that they were literally creating content because of me. They were pursuing what they want because of me. Someone just messaged me today actually, and she was like, "I'm taking a gap year because of the $11 product that you put out." Like, she's like, I'm going all in on my business. I'm gonna make 100K. I'm gonna go all in, and I'm gonna make it so that I don't have to go back if I don't want to." It like shit like that just really it's why I do what I do. Anyway, but a lot of people came up to me after, and they just had this story of they didn't know that they could do this. They didn't know this was available. They don't even know how to do it. And they really want to be able to impact people sooner. They don't want to wait till they have 50,000 followers and then feel like they can start selling some $97 product. But a lot of the conversations that I had, people were almost insinuating and feeling like, I'm so far ahead. I have it all figured out. It must feel so great. And that's all true. I'm not going to discount that. But it also brought up another truth. And I came home from this event just on like an adrenaline high, so grateful. And on the way home, I'll really dive into this for you guys. On the way home, I called my boyfriend because he was out of town, and I was actually supposed to be out of town with him. But then when I got asked to speak, I canceled the trip, and I was like, I gotta do this. And I called him on the way home, and I told him I was crying because I was like, this is so surreal, and I feel so touched, and I feel so moved. But the biggest truth that I told him actually was not like, "Oh my god, this is so great," and blah, blah, blah. I was like, "I have to work harder." I left that, and I'm talking 11:30 PM at night. I'm calling him, and I'm like, "I gotta work my ass off. I have to work so much harder," because I saw the impact that I was having, and it didn't create this feeling of like, "Oh my god, I made it," which I think a lot of people would assume that you have people lining up to take like, I have a video, guys, and it's crazy. I have a video where I put my phone down randomly. Obviously, I'm at a creator event I'm gonna record, and in that video, I didn't know what I was gonna capture, but I captured a whole group of really, really cool kick-ass women who came up to thank me, and they were lining up to take a photo with me. Like, I didn't you would think that after something like that, your feelings would be, "I made it," like, "Oh my god," like, "This is so amazing." I'm like, blah, blah. No. I literally walked out of there, and I was, like, convincing him over and over. I'm gonna be honest, he was drunk at a bar. He stepped out to talk to me, so he kept trying to be like, "No, that you're so impressive. You're winning." Like, I was like, "No, dude, listen to me." I was like, "I have to work harder. I'm not resting. It's a win. Of course, I celebrated so hard, and we're still gonna celebrate this weekend." He told me he owed me a dinner, but all the places when I got home were closed. But I just had this sentiment of like, my foot cannot come off this pedal. It has to stay down. I have to keep going because if I've impacted people in this way, I need to do that on like 50 times the scale of what I'm doing now. And when I actually got home that night, I'm now at like midnight. I'm buzzed. I haven't eaten food all day. I can't eat. All I want to do is just like work more. But I came home and I sat at my kitchen counter. And one of the things that I came on my story, and so many people have thanked me for saying this because they didn't know I felt this way or they needed to hear that I felt this way, is I came on my stories and I also just wanted to talk about this other truth that I said it brought up, this other sense of duality. And it's the fact that there's oftentimes, even when I've created a lot of success, I still feel like I'm failing. I still feel like I'm not doing enough. I still feel like, clearly, I've now told you this, that I need to be working harder and doing more. And one of the things that really hit me was the gap between how things can look and how they feel when you're building them. And how oftentimes it's not going to feel like things are working when they're actually working. I'm actually going to say this like 7 more times in a row because I need you to hear this. So often, it's going to feel like things are not working when they are working. It is going to feel like things aren't working when they are working. So often in life, when you are building really big things that feel uncertain and risky and emotionally uncertain and emotionally exposing, it's going to feel like things aren't working when the truth of the matter is things are working. You just can't see them yet. Okay, I'll go one more time. When things feel like they're not working on your journey to something big, just because you feel that way does not mean that's true. But it was so evident from this event And just from my journey and just how I know brains operate, that from the outside, people will look at me and they'll look at others and think, gosh, they're so far ahead. They see the business, they see the community, they see the money, they see the growth, and they must assume she's got it all. It's all perfect. Everything's so easy for her. But I really want you guys to know, because I want you to be like, damn, she feels the same way I feel. So if she feels the same way I feel, I can do it too. Internally, I need you guys to know half the time, I just feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like I need to be doing better. I feel like I'm not doing that well. And I'll have a huge win, and the next day my brain is already like, okay, but what's the next thing? What about the thing that I haven't figured out yet? What about the place that we're still not at yet? And here's the thing that no one talks about. Those two emotional states can coexist. You can be objectively successful and still feel like you're figuring everything out. You can be winning and still feel pressure. You can be doing incredibly well and sometimes still feel like it's not working yet. Both can be true at the same time. And if you don't understand that duality, you're going to think something's wrong with you when these feelings of quote unquote, it's not working come up. And the reason I feel that, I want to be really clear. The reason I feel that gap is, number one, I used to be very like when I was younger, I loathed myself, I hated myself, I was so cruel to myself. That has all stopped entirely. But I am still hard on myself. I do still have standards that I really push for. I am someone who I'm always, always, always going to push for more. I want to improve. I want to build better things. And the way that I think is, I'm so proud of where I've come from and how far I've come, and duality. My work ethic can always be higher. My content can always be better. My products can always improve. My leadership can improve. There's always another level. And so that means that I feel that gap a lot, the space between where I am and where I want to go and where I know I can go. But it was so evident speaking to so many people, and what I know from the DMs and what I know from my clients, that most people fall into this fallacy of thinking that success means it's finally going to feel like everything's working. Like it's going to be this whole new emotional, mental 3D reality in which you finally feel confident and you finally feel certain and you finally feel validated and you finally feel like you made it, because you're thinking about success as if it's some moment in which you quote unquote arrive. You finally feel, okay, I made it. Like once you hit a certain number of followers, or once you sign a certain client, or once you make a certain amount of money, you'll finally get to feel confident, validated, like you're doing great and settled. But that's not always how it works. If you're ambitious, and I mean, you don't like to just say that you're ambitious, you truly are ambitious, that feeling of arrival, it's going to come, but then there's a next level. You'll start thinking bigger. You're going to raise your standards. You want to improve. You want to build more. You want to become more. And what happens for a lot of those really ambitious people is that gap of where you are and where you want to be, it may shrink from time to time, but it's always going to be there. This whole episode is about the fact that if you misinterpret if you misinterpret the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and you think the gap means I'm failing, I'm behind, this isn't working, you're going to have a hard time growing big. If you accidentally start chasing the feeling of making it and think, once I get there, I'll finally feel confident. Once I get there, I'll feel validated. Once I get there, I won't struggle with this anymore. Once I get there, I'm going to feel so much better. You're going to wake up to a harsh reality where you probably don't get there when you can't. I'm going to tell a story that I actually think perfectly encompasses this. Early on in my business, I was actually so heartbroken behind the scenes. I had gone through a really rough breakup, and it was not a good relationship, but you're still heartbroken after them. It doesn't really quite matter. And I had this idea that once I get further and once my business is more stood up and I hit these milestones, I'm going to feel so damn good. And I remember I had made my first $25,000 within, I think it was about the first 3 months of my business. Yeah, the first 3 months of my business, I'd made $20,000 and 25,000, sorry. And I remember seeing that number of, oh shit, I've just made $25,000 in sales, and seeing that and being so elated. And then my next immediate thought being, oh, I'm still heartbroken. I thought the money was somehow going to make that go away. I really like it. And that might sound crazy. It might sound crazy on paper that, oh, I thought if I made this money, I suddenly wouldn't be sad anymore. But we actually always think that. We think if we had the clients, I'll finally feel confident. If we had this amount of money, I'd stop feeling scarcity. If my body looked this way, I'd finally get the man of my dreams. Whatever. You think that way all the damn time, girl. I know you do. But that was such a wake-up call for me where I was like, oh, these milestones aren't going to give me the feeling that I want. They'll give me a lot of things, pride, success. Like I had all the good feelings, but it just showed me so big and loud that, oh shit, if you don't want to be heartbroken, you gotta fix that yourself. This success isn't gonna make it go away for you. But when you are someone who you think when it's not working, if you just could get there, if you could just get yourself there, you'll feel better. When you're operating like that, I want you to listen closely. What you are actually doing is trying to escape your feelings of inadequacy. You are trying to outrun your feelings of not being enough. And the problem with that is twofold. First, you'll almost never escape that feeling because it comes with you. You'll hit the next level and suddenly there's another. The money, like I just said, doesn't fix your scarcity problems. Trust me. But the second problem is that when you're trying to escape that feeling, what you will start doing, and this is the whole crux of this episode, when you're trying to escape the feelings of inadequacy that you have with where you are now, you will start interpreting every moment of uncertainty or delay in the gap in what you want and where you are as proof that you're failing. Not necessarily because things aren't working, but because you feel uncertain. And you'll start to assume it's not working because you're not seeing results fast enough. You'll start to assume it's not working because you're not getting validated like you hoped you would be. You'll start to assume it's not working because things aren't going according to your master plan that you had to, be out of your job by a certain month. And you'll start questioning everything because this whole time you've been operating from inadequacy, and you'll start pulling back and you'll start doubting yourself. But to really succeed is to learn to keep going when it doesn't feel like it's working. I'll say it one more time because I got a lot of hits in this episode. To succeed is to learn and truly understand through your lived action that you have to keep going even when it doesn't feel like things are working. To have the level of success you want with the brand, with the business, with your bank account, with your body, you have to have the mental fortitude to hold that lag, to stay in the middle, to trust yourself even when you're not being validated. That is a skill most people never develop. So when people feel that sentiment of it feels like it's not working, it feels like I'm not getting anywhere, it feels like I'm not making progress, it feels like it's so far away, I just feel like it's not working, the clients aren't coming, the brand's not growing, the jobs aren't getting the interviews, I don't know. When you have that feeling of it feels like it's not working, most often what you're actually experiencing is the lag between your effort and results. And if you can't handle this, if you misinterpret this, if you run from this, which is what 95% of people listening to this episode will do and already do, you're going to feel like things aren't working a lot, especially if you're going after big things, especially if you're building something that matters. That lag, that feeling of it's not working, cannot be the thing that takes you out of the game. But for most people, it is. They feel uncertain, so they pull back. They don't get immediate validation, so they assume it's not working. They have a bad week, so they have all sorts of emotional drama and all of a sudden start to give in to that core subliminal belief that they have that I'm not cut out for this. Maybe this is never going to work. Blah, 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 blah. I don't even have to tell you what it is because I know you know. And then you wonder why you never build momentum. Here's what I've learned. The feeling of it's not working is not a sign to pull back. You need to rework. Actually, I'm going to just pause. You need to rework this. What I'm about to say, you need to rework. And if you don't know how to rework, get your ass in Fieta Tier 1. Tier 1 will do it for you. $99 a month. Get your ass in Fieta today. I'm so serious because the longer you live with this, the longer you're going to stay stuck. And the longer you stay stuck, the more you erode your self-trust. And the more you erode your self-trust, the more likely you are to quit every single day. Okay? So this is what you need to rework. And if you don't know how, you're joining Fieta. Deal? Deal. Okay. The feeling of it's not working is no longer going to be and no longer can be a sign for you to pull back. It has to be the reason that you keep going and double down. If you become someone, and this is what I had to do, when you become someone who, when you start to feel like it's not working, you no longer exist in that defeat. You exist in that uncertainty and self-doubt. If you can minimize the amount of time you stay in those emotions and instead use it as the exact reason you need to keep going and double down, you will go far. That's the mentality you have to develop. Not, I'll keep going as long as it feels good, or I'll keep going as long as I'm validated. I will keep going until I figure it out, period. That takes the level of mental fortitude. And I think part of it is mental fortitude is literally the ability to hold the lag, to stay in the middle. It's the ability to wake up on a day where it feels like nothing is working and still execute. It's posting when the last 5 posts flopped. It's building when your bank account feels so uncomfortable. It's continuing after rejection, after a bad week, after things didn't go the way you planned. Because here's the reality: if uncertainty is what makes you stop, you will constantly stop. If rejection is what makes you stop, you will constantly stop. If a lag between your effort and results makes you question yourself, how long do you think it's going to take for you to get there? What I'm actually describing is someone who needs guarantees to go after what they want. And if you need guarantees to go after what you want, the only thing you will find in that operating model is your comfort zone. Mental fortitude, I think, without deep diving on it, is simply the ability to say, feels like it's not working. All right, no big deal. I'm still going. It's why the people who keep going eventually look like the ones who quote unquote made it. And that's really one of the biggest differences between where I'm at and the people who want to be where I'm at, and between me and the people who look like they're so much further than me. They just kept going until it looks like they made it. If uncertainty takes you out, you'll never build the momentum required to get where you want to go. I'll say it one more time. If uncertainty takes you out, if the feeling of it's not working takes you out, you will never build enough momentum to get where you want to go until you change that mentality. And again, what did we say we're going to do? If we don't have that mentality yet, which most of you don't, I'm going to be honest, then we're going to get our beautiful asses into Fiera. We're going to join tier 1. We're going to spend the $99 to hop in for a month, see what happens for us, and actually see that most people get crazy momentum and life changes in that time. And now that you know how to do it, you're going to keep doing it and you're going to go far. For $99, it's silly. You get over 100 hours of videos from me in there for 99 freaking dollars. Just get inside, okay? Momentum does not come from everything going perfectly. Momentum comes from continuing even when it doesn't. And this is exactly what we talked about in episode 1. Remember that middle zone where 95% of goals go to die? Yeah, this is that again. And isn't it funny how we started there and this is the second to last episode? It's going to have to be figuring that out for yourself. You have to trust yourself to figure it out. You have to trust the universe. You have to trust God. You have to trust what's coming. And all the episodes in between 1 and episode 11 in this are helping you learn how to do that. And honestly, I want you to go back and re-listen to this entire season from episode 1. In April, that's your job. You start back at episode 1, not episode 1 of of the entire Bank on Her podcast. The episode where oh my God, what did I call it? The middle. That's where you're going to start. That's that episode title. That's where you're going to start, and you're going to listen forward from there. Again, because we need you to master the middle to get where you want to go. And I actually just want to describe what's actually happening when the work feels like it isn't working. And when that happens, something very predictable in all human behavior ends up happening. Your brain starts trying to protect you. And protection usually shows up as fear. Fear you're wasting your time, fear that you're not actually good enough, fear that you're going to do all of this and it's just not going to work, fear that people are watching you struggle, fear that you're making a fool of yourself. And here's the interesting part. When that fear shows up, your old identity suddenly gets very, very loud. That voice saying things like, see, I told you this wouldn't work, and maybe this just isn't for you, and maybe you should just go back to where you came from, and see, so-and-so said that you weren't going to make it, and they made that comment, and they were right. In that moment right there, those moments are where most people lose. Not because they're not capable, or not because the work wasn't working, but because your old version pulled you back into familiarity, because you weren't being validated. You weren't seeing the instant gratification. There was that lag. When the reality is a lot of times things probably were starting to work for you. But because you couldn't be validated and see it constantly, you were ignoring it. And once your brain, let me say this too, once your brain starts to get onto that belief system of maybe this isn't going to work and what if I'm not good enough, it constantly scans for signs of that. So you're ignoring all the proof that does actually exist that things are working, and you only see how it's not working. I'm sure I could go so much deeper into that. I'm just not going to because we got other things to cover and talk about today. But bestie, I need you to see that you are actually creating your own downfall. You need to rewire your brain and your nervous system and your level of action all inside Fiera, teaching you how to do it so that you stop doing that. Because the truth is, it's been working for a lot of your journey. but you're ignoring it and you're slowing yourself down. And I want to talk about something deeper. I wasn't going to include it in this episode. It might be a little bit in season 2, but fear versus faith. And I just feel like this has been on my heart and I've been saying this a lot lately. But I think something really, really interesting is that fear and faith both ask you to believe in something that you cannot see. Fear says, I believe that this will fail. And faith says, I believe that this can work. Both require belief, both require imagination, both require you to predict a future that has not yet happened yet. The difference is simply what future you choose to invest your focus into. And your focus is your most valuable resource. People always say it's time. It's not time, because focus is what can collapse time. Or focus, bad focus, unhealthy focus, self-doubting focus is what drags time out and has you waste it. So you need to choose the fear or the faith. Fiera and everything in there is how I went from someone who constantly, for my entire life, chose fear and instead started to choose faith. Faith in myself, faith in my ability to follow through, faith that what I would want is going to come, faith that I can get through the risk, uncertainty, and emotional exposure that is always going to be required when I want big things. So I just need you to remember that the work rarely feels like it's working while you're building it. It usually only looks like it worked after you refuse to stop. The work usually only looks like it worked after you've had a prolonged period where you refuse to stop. And I need you to remember, when the work feels like it isn't working, that's the moment it's actually usually about to start working. But it's the exact moment that almost all of you listening turn back instead, when it was the sign to double down. I hope you loved this episode. If you did, please screenshot it, add it to your stories, tag your girl in it so that I can share your profile. And come message me. Come message me with what came up for you. And come message me if you have any questions about Fiera, about joining Fiera. I really want you guys inside because I want you to see how good it can get. You have 100+ hours of videos in there from me. You get my Fiera formula, which is the neuroscience-backed formula that I used years ago to build my confidence. You get 365 days of actions from me meant to build up your financial wealth, your mental, physical, emotional, and time wealth. You get coaching with me every single week. I don't think people realize that. Every single week, you can ask me questions and get coached by me for $99. And we hop on a call every month. So it's just such a great place to be. There's such good community. It's the actual best place. And I would love to have you inside. And last thing is, be on the lookout for the free resource and the new low ticket offer I have coming. If you are someone who would love to learn the story, the insights, the lessons, the strategy behind how I made multiple six figures my first year in business with content with under 1,200 followers. And get on my email list so you know when season 2 is dropping in May. Love you, bestie. Thanks for listening, and I will catch you next week.